All right, so welcome to the monthly Look Ahead America all hands meeting. We usually try to do something special in addition to giving updates about what we're doing as an organization and what we've accomplished. And we actually have two very special guests tonight. Before I get started with that, a couple reminders. Please keep yourself muted. If you want to ask a question, do it in type. And obviously just keep your cameras off. That'd be great. We just want to have our guests front and center on the recording. Let me adjust the recording size here. Okay, there we go. So in the past week, we have done a lot in terms of trying to ensure election integrity ahead of the 2022 elections. One of the ways we're going to do that is that we are doing pre-election voter list audits. And we're running two analyses on a lot of different states' voter lists ahead of the election, because if you try to do it after the election, as we learned last time, it's really hard to make any progress. Whereas the analysis we're doing now is to identify individuals who are ineligible to vote so that we can prompt the state and counties to possibly remove them from the lists, or we can give people at the county level the option to challenge ballots, a basis to doing that if it is in fact the case that these people are ineligible. So the states that we've targeted, initially we're just doing 4, but because of our generous donors, we've now increased that number to 8. We'll be rolling out an official press release tomorrow, but I believe the states we're doing are, and Ian, correct me if I'm missing anything, we're doing Arizona, Georgia, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Virginia, North Carolina, and Florida. And I feel like we're missing, and Wisconsin. So it's 8. Ian, did I miss any? I think I got them all.
No, I think you got them all. Yep.
Yeah, which is really impressive because we just had the budget for 4. Somebody gave us a little money, so we're able to do one more. But we asked our generous donors on our email list that we've never shared with anybody, and we've been growing it since we started, and said, hey, help us raise money to get some more states and let us know what states you want us to do. And because of that, we're now doing 8 states, which I'm really happy about. And we've got some preliminary numbers that we may be releasing either tomorrow or Monday. But what we're doing is running 2 processes on these. First process is to determine people who've moved out of the state permanently and no longer eligible to cast ballots. And that involves using multiple government databases, cross-referencing them. In fact, the government itself is the one doing the match to show us where the matches are, to identify individuals who've permanently left their state and no longer eligible to vote in those states, along with a little bit of follow-up due diligence on our part, because a few times there are cases where people move out of the state permanently, but they're still eligible to vote in that home state, such as for military personnel. The second analysis we're doing is identifying locations that are illegal to be registered at. In most states, maybe with 1 or 2 exceptions, you cannot register to vote at a P.O. box or something that's like a P.O. box, like a Mailboxes Express or any of the other mail services. But a lot of people have that as their not mailing address, but residential address. And the problem is that the way lines work when you're assigned to everything from congressional district to water district, they have to put you in the place where you actually reside. Even if it's a park bench, even if it's an empty lot, fine. I mean, if that's where you reside, fine. But you cannot reside in a small 6-inch box. So that's the analysis we're doing. We're looking forward to rolling that out, and at least the first step of that either tomorrow or early next week on the first 4 states that we had targeted. Very excited. We've seen some very substantial numbers in these states, a real sign that there's an opportunity to clean these lists up ahead of the election, a real opportunity to make legitimate objections to ballots that are cast for people who are not residents of the state anymore. So we look forward to doing that, and we're very grateful to all of our donors for making that possible, as well as helping pay for this nifty new mic, so I actually am audible now. So with that, I want to talk about one of our most important projects, and the project we've been leading on is our Justice for J6 mission. We've been the frontline leader on this issue, going all the way back to January of 2021. We have put out letters to the Department of Justice and FBI when everybody else wanted to remain silent about it. We went right to the Department of Justice and FBI's doorstep to protest. We protested at the prison. We held rallies, 70 rallies all across the country in states near and far. I think, from New York to Florida to Hawaii and everywhere in between. We also held a major rally at the Capitol. And since then, we've pivoted to doing our Justice for J6 project for targeting elected officials to get them on the record about what they're going to do about these political prisoners and these people are being politically persecuted. as well as highlighting many of their stories through our Political Prisoner podcast, where the audience continues to grow. And it has illuminated to me the very real totalitarianism that the people have fallen under the boot of for simply walking into a public building and walking out a few minutes later with no knowledge of doing anything wrong, for something that routinely happens in DC and routinely results in a slap in the wrist for exactly the same behavior. The difference was, well, these people had political ideology that disagreed with the establishment, with the left-wing state, and they're paying the price for it. So we've been helping these people share their stories, and I can't tell you how many people I've spoken to, including one of our guests tonight, who has something really compelling to share, or something that really tragic happened to them or somebody near them, and no one's covering it. Nobody in the media, no one's giving them the time of day, outside of maybe one or two other places, some really good patriots, but unfortunately without nearly the reach of anywhere close to what the mainstream media has. So we've been a platform for these people to tell their stories and to document the travesty that they've suffered. One of the things that I've learned, and this is something we're going to be rolling out this week, is that one of the things that, even if you didn't get prosecuted for anything, if you get your name in any way associated with January 6th, you face some very real consequences, specifically loss of employment. And loss of employment, that has a devastating effect on an individual and their family. That costs them their house, their savings, everything they built, cost them relationships. We all know one of the leading causes of divorce is financial struggles. And, it has destroyed families. And I've just heard one too many of these stories. So I'm actually going to preview for you guys today our new initiative that Ian will officially be rolling out at a Justice for J6 protest, or one of our protests that we're sort of co-sponsoring in DC this Saturday, where he'll be speaking, is a program called Jobs for J6. We're going to create a resume bank for anybody that's been affected for their peaceful participation in the January 6th protests, who've lost their job or had other employment struggles. And we're going to invest at least $20,000 marketing these people to patriotic employers who want to give them an opportunity and will not hold their political beliefs against them. And honestly, I don't care if the employer's a far left Democrat or a far right Republican or something else. If they're interested in hiring good patriotic Americans who are being stomped on for simply expressing their First Amendment rights, which should not happen in this country. You should not lose your entire livelihood because you attended a protest. If you're working in construction, or you've got some small business, or you've got a farm, that should be taken away from you just for expressing your First Amendment rights. So we're going to be helping those people. So our Jobs for J6 program will be rolling out in the next couple of days. I'm glad that we have the resources to do it. I'm disappointed that we're the ones that have to and no one else is. But that's what we've been doing since this crisis started. And I'm proud that Look Ahead American could do it. I just wish we had some more allied organizations, especially here in DC where I am, that have these beautiful glass and steel buildings as far as the eye can see, and they will not do anything for these people, but we will. So with that, I want to welcome our two guests. Now, you may not recognize the name Chansley, but you probably recognize the name Shaman, which is a gentleman who had the misfortune of winning the best costume contest on January 6th. And for that, and really nothing more than that, and being completely polite, a gentleman who complied with all lawful orders he was given that day, he has been punished worse than murderers in this country. You can kill somebody and walk away with less than this guy did. And his mother, Martha, Jake's mother, is joining us, and we're going to hear a little bit from her. We're also going to hear from our recent podcast guest, Gary McBride, who was nowhere near the Capitol on January 6th, but through some, I guess, I don't know, you want to say it was God that led you to this project, or maybe you're not a believer, or something led you to it, to start doing some serious research into what happened that day, and you discovered something completely tragic that just should blow your mind, that it's never been discussed in the media. It's been completely overlooked. And it's basically, you've got a couple of heroes. Cara Castanova stands up for it, but there aren't too many people talking about this. and I'm very glad that you're able to share it. So first of all, Martha, how is Jake doing?
Hello, and thank you for having me. Uh, Jake is Jake is doing all right considering his circumstances. He's doing a great job of remaining um, maintaining a positive attitude in the situation that he's in. Because if you don't find things that you can be positive about, then the consequences are dire.
Yeah. And so how often are you able to communicate with him?
Pretty much every day.
That's good. Is it telephone or email or what?
It's mostly telephone.
Okay. Good,
Yeah.
good. So when does he get out?
We expect to see him probably sometime around the first of the year, somewhere in there, probably.
Okay, good, good. Has he made any plans for what he's going to do once he gets to breathe that free air again? I'm sure probably eat some good home cooking, right?
Yeah. Eat organic food, be with his family and loved ones, and uh, what are his plans? His plans are to be America's shaman.
So
That he wants that
is he really a religious like cuz I know I'm familiar with shamanism. There's a few different traditions of it, but is that really where he comes from or where he is?
he is a practicing shaman. Yes.
What
Yes, he's been.
is that the North American tradition or a European or Asian tradition? Where does this come from?
Those kind of questions you'll probably have to ask him, Matt, because I'm not really sure exactly like those. I can't really answer that very well. So I'm sorry I don't have a better answer about exactly where. I know that he has roots he has Native American roots. As a matter of fact, he has his medicine people, which would have been his great grandparents or great uncles, great aunts, were on the Trail of Tears, and they survived.
Well, it must be he. So
So
he comes from tough blood.
and they were shaman, they were medicine people. So he comes from his lineage on his father's side comes from uh, Native American.
So did you let Jake know that you were going to be talking to us tonight?
I haven't had a chance to talk to him about that yet. No.
Well, I was going to ask you if you told him. What does he have a message for us? But do you know if it's what
Oh,
does he tell you to tell people? Ask him. What he wants us to hear from him. What's his message to those of us on the outside that are praying for him and rooting for him?
that he appreciates you very, very much. He appreciates the love and the support, that he feels it. He appreciates the letters. He appreciates it because it's helping him. It's helping him get through these tough times. He thanks everyone, and he sends out his love from his heart.
I look forward to getting him on the podcast or interviewing or even meeting him in person when he is released from prison. But the thing that kind of comes to my mind is that if you look through history, a lot of the individuals who've really left a mark on history, I think for the better, whether it's Nelson Mandela, Martin Luther King, Veer Savarkar of India, all of them have something in common. They all spent some time as essentially political prisoners. They spent some time in the can, and some of them used that to meditate or to write. And I just wonder what great patriotic leader we might encounter who was swept up in this, who didn't do anything wrong, didn't commit violence, but had, the state intended to snuff their life out by not just putting them in prison, but basically having that J6 mark on them, like the mark of the devil, for them to carry the rest of their
Mhm.
life. Or, maybe like Hester Prynne with the letter A. But, in the story, she really turned that around, as did those other individuals. That mark of having been a prisoner for political belief is something that the states that did that came to regret. And I wonder what great patriotic leader we'll have coming out of the prison, because a lot of them have been sentenced and a lot of them are going to be coming out soon. And, you know, I know for a fact that some of these folks are going to come out of there kind of broken and kind of lost in step. But I know some of them are going to come out ready and learned and wiser and ready to make a difference for the better of the country. And I hope that your son is one of them.
I believe he is. I really do. I believe he is. I believe he will be. He wants to make a difference in the world spiritually. His mission is he likes to be known as the America's shaman. And he takes it very seriously. He really does. He's actually helping people where he's at right now in a spiritual kind of way.
I believe it.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Because
has he been keeping? Sorry, go ahead.
It would be easy to fall into that pit of depression, but he looks at what he feels blessed about. What is he blessed about?
Well, look, I mean, he's going to be out soon. He's still on the right side of the dirt. Any day on the right side of the dirt is a day you can make a difference. And I hope that he's been keeping some kind of journal, some kind of writing about what he's experienced there, and he can use that book to sort of share his message with others, or maybe a speaking tour or something like that. But I hope that we have the opportunity to interact with him and let him know that we're all praying for him. And I know that in chat they've been sharing a place where you can find out how to write to him. So hopefully he'll be getting some new pen pals. So I'm really glad
that would be great.
I'm really glad you're able to join us. Next, I want to talk a little bit to Gary. I don't want to redo our whole podcast, but in a nutshell, I'm going to cut to the chase here. In a nutshell, you playing internet detective and video detective spent a tremendous amount of time researching video. In fact, a lot of video that was meant to demonize and villainize the people who were at the protest that day. That was meant to make, that same 15-second B-roll of somebody doing something that they should not do to a police officer or something. And of course, Look Ahead America, we condemn all political violence. I mean, somehow people miss that, but yes, we condemn all political violence. But even when they were releasing that to try to paint everybody that was there that day as basically a loony, violent insurrectionist, you were able to use that to make at least one very compelling discovery regarding what appears to be the cold-blooded murder of a young woman by a DC police officer. So why don't you just give us the condensed version of what you found and what it moved you to do.
Okay. It was I was doing some work for an attorney I called him for something, but it was Jake Lang. I was looking for somebody that he was trying to save.
His father's, by the way, his father is a true patriot. He is. Yeah. Jake is I've spoken to him. He's been on the podcast like you have, but he's really lucky to have a father like Ned, and that guy is a fighter, and it's such a blessing that he's got a guy like that in his corner.
I agree, absolutely. He fights for a lot of people. But yeah, so I found the video of Roseanne and let his attorney know. And then I wanted to find out what happened to her because I saw her getting hit with a stick, but I needed to find her really getting hit. So I just kept at it. And just while I was looking for other stuff is when I just happened to come across it by accident or whatever. But it was a body camera video that was just released, and I knew I hadn't seen it before. So when the cop turned to the right, at the same time, you got the image of the officer, Lila Morris, hitting Roseanne. So we sent FOIAs to try to get the officer's name. Of course, that never worked. So we did it another way. And that's when Kara had called, and we got 15 of their names that we were looking for. So that was what changed me when finding who that officer was, but also helping a defendant. So it kind of changed my gears as far as just trying to find things that were going on. I started going and helping the J6ers, you know.
Well, I think that that's good. And honestly, I mean, would you before all this, you were not a journalist,
I was a 20-year oil and gas executive.
right? But you're doing a better job of journalism than 99.9% of the journal. Like, just for those, let me pull back the curtain on
Pull back the rain.
how journalism really works in this country. Is some politically powerful or corporate powerful individual writes a package and hands it to a journalist, and then they sort of read it, and then they do little more than cut and paste it and maybe make a couple calls at best. So journalism, most of what you read in newspapers or see on television, it's not like there's some gumshoe. There's always the classic vision of a 1920s reporter where they got the little press tag and their fedora, and they're going out digging out the stories. No, that's not how it works. And honestly, I know this because I've done it. I've placed stories. I've said, okay, hey, I got something good for you. Wanna, and that's the extent of what journalism really is. I there's so few that actually do like real digging into stuff, which is exactly what you did. So I hope that you consider continuing with this new career, because you're doing a better job of it than anybody at my the famous Columbia School of Journalism. Where are their graduates on this, or doing anything remotely like this? They take stuff that's handed to them and they run with it like lackeys, and honestly, that really is how it works. If you had any doubt, nothing moves unless it's pushed. So, but we got a patriot here who's pushing this story. So yeah, but you made the discovery, you made the complaint to the police department. So did the DC Police Department, in your view, conduct a thorough investigation of the evidence that you found of one of their police officers beating an unarmed, unconscious woman to death?
No, absolutely not. I think it's a trend over there. I think it's a practice over there. There's a lot of issues with police officers using excessive use of force, keeping their jobs. Most of them get a promotion. We see that with Victoria White's, with Bagshaw, what he did to her and what happened to him. Nothing's happening to him. It's a huge problem there, a huge problem. And so this is going to open up more issues. I mean, this is, hopefully it opens it up so people start seeing it more. It needs to be.
There are a lot of problems, and I mean, like I said, we've seen so many, but this one, I mean, we all know about the great patriot that was shot on camera. We all saw it inside the building, but this woman, she was actually beaten to death on the steps outside, and there was nobody there close enough with a good camera. But I do believe that the U.S. Capitol has cameras everywhere, and there's probably the evidence. But unfortunately, the Speaker of the House has decided not to release the evidence of all of these insurrectionists running crazy at the Capitol building. That she doesn't want to release it for some reason, and it just tells me, perhaps it may take a change in leadership, and maybe that's coming. We're a nonpartisan group. We don't support parties or candidates. That's what Look Ahead America doesn't do that. But we would expect that the best chance. Let me put it just a different way. If there's a change in leadership, there may be a change in the decision to release that footage, and we really would like to see that, because it's in everybody's best interest. Hey, and here's the darndest thing, is that any other police department, you could file a FOIA, Freedom of Information Act. You can't request FOIA of the Capitol Police. There's no transparency. They're like a Praetorian Guard.
Yeah, that's when Jason Bagshaw shot and killed somebody back in June of this year. The chief of police, Conti, he released the body camera, the CCTV videos within 5 days, to be transparent, because but they don't do the same thing for what happened on January 6th.
Do you think that's
the truth?
Tell us the name of the officer who delivered the blows
to Roseanne?
Yes.
That was Lila Morris.
And do you believe she was wearing a body camera that day?
Oh yeah, she was.
And you say that with confidence.
Oh yeah.
So the footage,
Yeah.
Now the department, Derek Chauvin really missed out. He was with the wrong police department because his police department tried to clear him too, but that was not the end of that. But in
No,
this case, the DC Police Department didn't release the footage when they cleared her.
that's right. It's part of the highly sensitive video that, um,
Do you think
yeah,
that they
it's,
deleted it, or do you think it's still out there somewhere?
oh, it's there. 100%.
That's
Yeah.
tragic. We've we've got. I don't know. Maybe I'll have to call one of Look Ahead's trusty attorneys to see if we can FOIA that or get that or something. It seems like we should push that case, and maybe you and I will talk about that a little bit more.
Yeah, that'd be good to talk about. I want to say something to Martha real quick about Jake. Is I'm gonna try to get choked up. um, I loved his prayer on the floor, and they don't put that out. So it's just so you know, that was probably one of my favorite parts when I came across that video. So
Thank you.
You're
Thank you.
welcome.
Yeah, that was a great prayer, wasn't it?
yeah, it needs to be done more.
Yes. And it was great having that prayer resonating in that chamber.
Well,
Yes, sir.
to be clear,
Yes, sir. That's right.
what Gary's saying is that the prayer needs to be done more, not the January 6th thing needs to, because they're going to clip this up and say, "Oh, they're calling for another insurrection. They're trying to
They
do it
sure
again."
will.
It's those
Yeah, they will.
crazies. No, he
Like
clearly
they
meant
did September 18th last year.
more beautiful prayer, not
Absolutely.
yeah, nothing, no.
And he remembered every hat to take off.
Yes, yes, yeah. Well,
I know he was like, oh, and then he was like, oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, look, I'm really grateful to both of you for joining us and hopping on the video. Is Miss Martha, is
Thank you,
anything
Matt.
you want to share before we move on to a little bit other business?
Yes, I would like to share with you about what I mean by Jacob looking at what his blessings are, because while he's not exactly happy where he's at because he'd rather be here, right? But what we look at is we say, well, you're not in solitary confinement. You're able to walk around. He has a job there. So
What's his job there?
really, he cleans up the grounds and stuff.
Manual labor is
Works.
great for thinking things through, isn't it? I'm sure
And
he's discovered that.
what's wonderful is he's actually ministering there in prison
Awesome.
to the prisoners, and it's voluntary, of course. I mean, the people, they're coming to him because he was teaching a metaphysics class. So I know, isn't it great? I'm so excited. I love him so much. He's so cool. He's such a great guy, and he's done wonderful things. He's doing wonderful things, and he's going to continue to do wonderful and great things. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how it's gonna unfold. And he said again, he thanks everyone for their love and their support, and I thank you so much. And I'm sorry, I don't know how to type, or I would send the address out to how you could send him a letter. I'll go and try to find an envelope or something that I sent a letter, but so that folks can get that address and they could send him something.
Sure, and if you just message that over to Julie, she can share it in chat.
Oh, perfect.
And again, thank you for joining us. It's been a real blessing. Gary,
Thank you.
anything you'd like to share before we pivot to regular business?
No, I mean, just y'all can find me on my website at m5newsgate.com and find out everything right there, and follow me on all the other platforms there.
That's
really easy.
That's Amazon Michael 5gate.com.
Yeah, m5newsgate.
m5newsgate.com.
Yeah, m the number 5 newsgate.com. Yeah.
Okay, good. Julie put that in chat. Thank you, Miss Julie.
Thank you, Julie.
So I appreciate both of you guys joining us.
Thank you for having me.
You're very welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Sure. We'll look forward to doing it again, and we look forward to having Jake here when he gets out. That would be a real treat. Next, I want to hand it over to Ian to tell us a little bit about what's going on in Research Group. I know there's a real need for volunteers, and also you're going to be making a little trip, I guess, tomorrow to DC. So tell us a little bit about that.
Hey, let me. Okay, I'm back on. Hey, hi everybody. Thank you for that. It's a tough act to follow. Yes, as Matt just talked about, I am going to be going to DC tomorrow, and I will be speaking at the J6Solid.com rally. Ned Lang, that Matt talked about earlier, he's actually going to be sponsoring and hosting that. We'll be, I'll be a speaker there. Actually, so will a few people who are going to be here. We have Erin LaCroix. She is kind of the person in charge of a lot of our January 6th research. And there's a number of yes, I think that's actually the t-shirt we got for her. And I think Gary's going to be there as well, if I'm not mistaken. I know there's quite a few people who are going to be going, so I could find if you go to j6solid.com, that's all the details. I don't remember off the top of my head, but if you go to j6solid.com, all that information will be there in terms of location. I do know it's 1 to 5 Eastern, right? Because it's DC. I believe they're going to be live streaming it too on RSBN. But yeah, so I'll be talking about what Matt talked about earlier with the announcement that he was talking about with the. Well, yeah, I'm flying. I'm flying tomorrow though. But yeah, the event is actually on Saturday, which is cool. So if anyone wants to, who's going to be in DC, wants to meet up afterwards or beforehand, be happy to do so. So that's one of the things we're working on. Matt's obviously talked about the podcast a bit. I have been looking for volunteers for working on Arizona. We are working on national change of address right now, but we are going to be pivoting a little more towards the ineligible locations, like people who are at, I don't know, like a laundromat or something like that, who are questionable, as well as PO boxes and things of that nature. Plus all the states Matt discussed. We're also wrapping up the Wisconsin Election Commission complaints. That's actually been a ton of work. I've been trying to get volunteers on that. I think we have about 15 that we sent out formally. I'm going to be completing that at the end of this month. We'll do a little report and print those out but redacted, which would be kind of a nice motivational booster so people could see how to do it, how to file complaints in their own state, because a lot of them are pretty similar. I've seen a lot of the reason why a lot of them get shot down is because they're too general or wrong jurisdiction, stuff like that. And I don't know if John Cobb is on this call, but if he's not here, I will give a. Is he? I don't think he's here now. I want to say that he has done phenomenal work in Pennsylvania. It's one of the states we're going to be working on. He took our work that we did in Cumberland County for people who were registered at PO boxes, and he contacted the clerks, which I was not unsuccessful with, but he went to the Board of Elections and went through all the different steps. And long story short, he did get 57 ineligible voters cleared from the United States Post Office, which is a huge chunk, right? I mean, that could at least sway a local election, if nothing else. So that's one of the stuff we're working on. So there are a lot of wins we're having on the way to Victory Mountain. If anyone has not gone to Matt's webinars, he will talk about that more. But yeah, we have a lot of stuff going on at Look Ahead, and I would definitely love to get more volunteers. We definitely need people who want to help on Discord. It's going right now. So please sign up at Discord and join us at Look Ahead.
Sorry, I'm typing here in the, I was trying to answer some questions really quick. Our next webinar will be October 18th.
Yeah, certainly. There's a few people have already posted the site, and I posted it earlier. It's j6solid.com. As I mentioned before, there's going to be a number of speakers there. There's going to be a few higher profile speakers, like Dinesh D'Souza is going to be there. Jim Hawk, from the founder of Gateway Pundit, Mickey Whithoff, who is also on our podcast, Kara Castronova, Professor David Clements, David Sumrall, who we've had on our AMAs. Like, quite a few people are going to be there. And it's actually, I found the address, it's going to be at the corner of Constitution Avenue Northwest and 4th Street Northwest. Basically, it's north of Reflecting Pool. And you can RSVP there. And it's just going to be, it looks like, man, I see, it looks like 20 speakers I'm seeing. There's a 4-hour event from 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. As far as I'm aware, it's free. It's really just people showing their support who are interested and involved with the January 6th, history about it, want to support it in some way or network there. That's really what it's going to be. I think that from what we've seen, I can't believe it's almost been a year ago. Our rally itself was September 18th of 2021. Now it's almost a year exactly. Yeah, it's nice to see that groups are stepping up and coming forward, because I remember how scared it was. And I see, this is what if you're not able to make it, that's totally fine. Please feel free to share that link with other people. Tell them to check at RSBN, which is where they're going to be screening it. I'm sure a few other sites will have it, like Rumble and whatnot. But yeah, that's what I'll be at, and I'll be discussing what Matt talked about earlier.
Amen.